So I think we would agree we have challenges. We have a lot going on. We've got a lot we got to work on. Let's talk about some of these challenges. Well, of course, number one, the challenge is created is explicit content. Explicit content. This is exactly what you think it is. It's everything you think it is, but it's deeper than that because it's not just a printed magazine anymore. It's digital photos. But it's not just digital photos anymore. It's videos. It's not just videos anymore. Now we live in the world of AI. And guess what AI can do? It can create you any picture you want to see in graphic detail. It can create you any video you want to see in graphic detail. That's the world we live in. Things have changed. Nearly half of parents, 46% of parents, say they're extremely worried. Now, that does not mean that the rest of them say they're not worried. This is just extremely worried. It's a large group, but 46% of parents believe they're extremely worried just on social media alone that their teen will see something that they're not supposed to see. And I think we already know as we created those little illustration there. We had that 14-year-old girl, we had that 15-year-old boy, and here we have exposed an entire room of adults. But that's how easy it is. So explicit content is part of this. Now, as you look at this chart, this is a part of that group being exposed to explicit content, and it goes off this heading. Now Pew Research Center did this study, but parents are more likely to be concerned about their teens seeing explicit content on social media than these sites leading to anxiety, depression, or low self-esteem. Oh, parents are worried about being explicit. Parents also say, now I think this is funny, parents say it's harder to parent now. Now, do you remember when your parents went to school? What did they say about going to school? Yeah, back in my day, we walked up the hill to school in snow, and we walked up the hill to get home in a hailstorm, okay? Now, I'm not here to say whether parenting's harder or not, because I think in every generation there were complexities. There were problems. There were things that the parents, it was new to them. The children, it was new to them. And that's still true today. However, I want you to think about this. Anywhere you want to go, you can now immediately go. It's not a printed magazine anymore. It's not a book or it's not a movie. It's constant access. 2/3 of parents today say that parenting is harder than it was 20 years ago. And there might be something to that. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with it. I know this, in exposure, it's different. And as technology changes, it's going to continue to get, listen to this, I'm going to give you a word you don't hear, worse. It's going to keep getting worse, okay? People are going to create new ways to do the same things because in those list of apps, I've printed them in a booklet. Some of them don't exist anymore because they've actually said, no, we're going to shut that one down. But you know what happens as soon as they shut one down? They build another one. And somebody's making some money off this. So social media is a part of this. Smartphones have been cited as the reason parents believe parenting is now harder. In this study, it's a little hard for me to see back there, but in this study, you have parents on the right side of the screen. Most parents don't think it's acceptable for a child of under the age of 12 to own a phone. Now a good number of parents believe that, but I'm going to tell you something. Parents who fill out a survey and parents who buy their children when they're 12 smartphones or when they're 10 smartphones, they're not the answers they are in the survey. Okay? There are children, and I don't know if this is how it is here, but it is where I live. There are children in elementary school that have a smartphone. No. Listen, I'm going to say a word that kids hate, and we don't like it either. No. We must never. Because do you know what we've done? We've given them unlimited access to something that they don't know how to handle. You look at all these things. The majority of parents on the left side of the chart say parenting is harder. That's that group. A large number believe, and it's social media. It's technology in general. This is why parenting is harder. Why? Because everything's unrestrained. As you continue to look at the surveys by Pew Research Center again, Parents are concerned that their child might spend too much time on screens and have reached out to doctors for advice for this. I have some advice for parents. You don't have to call your doctor. You know what you do? Turn it off. I've told my boys that this is what I'm going to do when they get a smartphone. That when they get in trouble, I'm not going to take the phone. I'm taking the charger. Because I want them to watch every battery percent go down till it dies. That's all you got to do. You just got to shut it off. You just simply have to do this. This is not complicated. Now, I understand, I know when our kids start driving, I know there's a lot of complexities to this. I know that tablets, and we're going to talk in a little bit about how we can monitor these things, how we can handle these things. There's a lot of good technology out there. I'm going to share with you 4 different resources later of how you can take technology, have it in your home, and at least have some peace about it as you think about it. But parents say it's harder to be a parent nowadays. Teens have spoken about a number of issues, and about 54% of teens have said they spend way too much time on their phones. 41% say they spend way too much time on social media. By contrast, over a quarter, 26%, say they spend too much time playing video games, comparable to the 22% of people who say they spend too little time. You know, if there's somebody who says I do it too much, somebody's going to say I don't do it enough. So 22% of teenagers said I don't play games enough. So you can kind of see there's a wide spectrum when you start looking at the data, the numbers. But here, I want you to see this. 54% say they spend too much time on their phones. That's teenagers. I don't know if they were honest or not, but I know this. As many as I believe were honest, there were some of that other percentage that say, oh, I don't spend too much time on my phone, as they're probably on their phone. This is the problem that we're talking about. When you start looking at the numbers, you start looking at the research, 36% of teens say they spend too much time on their phones. 5% said we spend too little on their phones. When you break it down, girls and boys, 31% spend too much time. Girls, 41% spend too much time on their phones. Now, when you start breaking it down by demographics, it changes slightly, but not greatly until you start looking at age. 13 to 14, 28% say they spend too much time on their phones. 15 to 17, 42%. And then when you start looking at different environments, your urban areas, your city areas, your country areas. You know, I was glad when I drove down the road earlier today. I thought, oh, this is a country area. You know, this is like home. But then it didn't take me a minute till I got into a city area. So you're kind of in a mixed environment, and you're going to have the same type numbers. And it's interesting to me that when you look at household income, those numbers aren't any different. So whether a family is poor or a family is rich, same problems still exist. Half the teens on the internet say they use the internet almost constantly. Almost constantly. Now that was before AI became the new trend. Did you know that in colleges now, the biggest problem they're having is AI writing my paper for me? The biggest problem they're having is during tests that are done on the computer is some AI bot, some AI generated thing reading the question, providing me the answer, then I can type it in. That's the biggest worry. The same thing is true with interviews in corporations. They'll have you share your screen, but people on their cell phones are having AI type them the answers that they should speak back to the interviewer. I see this online all the time. I see it on social media. I see it a lot on TikTok. This is what people are doing to gain these things in existence. 54% of teens say it'd be really hard to give up social media. And you know, I want to tell you something. How many adults in here are on social media? It'd probably be hard for us too. We might do okay for a day or two, but then we want to know, well, I wonder what so-and-so's doing. You know, you and I, we use Facebook because we're old. That's what teens will tell us. Why do you use Facebook? Marketplace? Boy, you and I agree. I've got 2 messages from Marketplace I got to deal with when I get home. I'm looking for carpet tiles. I found them for $1. I'm excited. That tells you, I guess that's why they call us old. I'm excited about carpet tiles I found for $1. But we use it to share pictures of our family, and maybe we stay in contact with our friends, and that's how we would use it, and then we turn it off and we might not think about it for a while. But not this generation. 73%, they continue to have access to things. The majority of teens use YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook has dropped dramatically. You want to know why? They think we're old. I guess we're not fun anymore. Or maybe there's not as much on that platform as there is on all the others. Maybe it's an exposure thing. Even though, don't get this wrong, there are things on Facebook you and I don't need to see either. There are things we don't need to deal with either. But they're using all of these things as you go through. These are our challenges. These are our challenges. So let's get some concepts that we need to know. Number one, we are not monitors. You remember when you took a trip on the bus? When you were in school, there was a bus monitor. You know what the bus monitor did? Saw everything that happened and reported on everybody when you got to where you're going. They were a monitor. They didn't do anything. Was trip okay? Trip was okay. Trip okay? We had some problems. That was it. That's not a parent, is it? I'm not a monitor. I'm a dad. You're a mom. That's who we are. Now, here's where we got to say something. For some, this will be okay. For some, this will be hard. You've got to learn to use your phone, because they already know how to do it. You're already behind. You are already behind. Do you want to know why when your grandkids come over, they fix the television? This is why. They're already ahead. They have grown up with this. This is all they have ever known. And they see it and they just understand it, and it's become a part of all of our lives. They get this, and you've got to learn, but we've also got to recognize we are responsible for what happens in our child's life. I'm responsible. I want to tell you something, and you need to know this. I'm responsible for my child's grades in school. We don't like that, do we? But you know, as much as we put into it is as much as they're going to get out of it. And let me tell you, I despise math homework any more than you do. I had to tell my son who's in 4th grade, go talk to your mama. Evidently, I peaked at 3rd. They're doing things I was doing in high school in 4th grade now. Let me tell you, things are different. They're being educated at a different level. And that's a good thing, but we're responsible for that. We've got to keep up with that. And my boys love to play Fortnite. I don't know if you know what that is. That's just a game. But what we've done in our home is mom and dad play Fortnite with both the boys. Now, we don't require them to only play with us, but we play with them so that when something happens, and it happened recently, people can join your party, your game. And there was a little boy, he couldn't have been but about 12 based on his voice. He said the filthiest things I'd heard in a long time. And you know what we had to do? We had to sit down and have a conversation about these things. Our boys' segments are set up to where nobody can join your party except parents approve it. Mine was not that. I forgot. And he joined mine. And then I had to tell that little boy, hey, you're not going to do that. And I banned him and reported him for offensive language, for vulgar language. You can do that. But we had to have that conversation because here we are in the middle of this and something happened before we knew it. You're responsible for what they're exposed to, for what's going on. You've got to be a part. And if you don't know how it works, they're going to outsmart you. They're just going to outsmart you. You know why? When little boy goes, asks mama, hey, can I have a popsicle? No, you cannot. Who's he go to next? Well, Dad. What's Dad say? I don't care. Go, get me one too. And then what happens? The same thing's going to happen here. They will outsmart you and they will pit you. They don't do that on purpose. But boy, it happens, doesn't it? And the same thing is true. You're responsible for what happens. You need to listen to your children. Now, I'm not always good at this. Have you ever said this phrase? Not right now. Oh, that's the parent's dream. Because you can see them coming to you and you've already got it. Not right now. You're ready. You listen. Not right now. Why? Because what are you? Busy. So you say, not right now. So you have dismissed whatever it is, and you may have listened, that's fine, but here's something you need to listen to. You need to listen to your children. My youngest, who is 10, wants to make YouTube videos, and I think that'd be fantastic. But that also won't be fantastic, will it? So what we have decided to do is we're going to do this as a family. It's not going to be his thing. It's going to be our thing. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to make YouTube videos about Fortnite, but coming soon, okay, this is what we're going to have. because we've got to teach responsibility. And if you don't know how it works, if you don't know what's happening in the comments that are being made, you can't be a part of this. They're going to come and ask you, hey, when can I have a cell phone? Not right now is not a good answer, okay? A good answer is, hey, let me talk to mom or dad or the spouse, and hey, we'll talk to you tomorrow or this weekend about it, and y'all need to talk about this, and y'all need to be on the same page. We'll talk about that in a minute. You've got to listen. You've also got to make sure that everyone's aware of the guidelines that are in place. We're going to talk about guidelines here in a minute, but when you send them over to grandma and grandpa's house, they need to know the guidelines too. Okay? It has to be a universal front. We've got to be pulled together. We've got to make sure our friend parents, that they understand, because when they go over to your house, they got to do what they do at my house too when it involves this, because it's that open, it's that big. I got to make sure. Then I've got to know this. What happens when it doesn't work? Because let me tell you something that's true. You're going to find things that don't work. I wish I could tell you if you do this, this, and this, you'll never have a problem. I can't do that. I cannot do that. I wish I could. Because I can go ahead and tell you, we've made mistakes in it too. And you're going to make mistakes in it, but you know what you've got to do? You've got to recognize when it's not working. I've got to make some corrective action, and I've got to make sure everybody knows the corrective action. You're going to have some things that create problems, but I encourage you to do this. Ask this question: is this going to bring our family together? Together. I'm going to say something, and I mean it with the most sincere thing I can say. I don't mean this with any meanness in my heart. I don't mean it. I don't want it to cause an emotional response to you, because I know it possibly can. But if I get to heaven and my children aren't there, it's bad. Is it going to bring us together? Or one day is this going to tear us apart? That's what we're talking about here. I'm trying to find ways to make my family come together. Now here is where we've got to move to the next PowerPoint. So due to the magic of the back room, we will change PowerPoint and we will shift over to the next segment. The next segment we're going to talk about is conversations for families. Here is where we get to how do we make this work? How do we make this go together? How do I deal with problems? How do I deal with what's going on? And also, how do I protect my family? How do I protect my family? That's what we're talking about here. So 5 things. Now we're gonna just rapid fire, okay? Y'all, listen, if pews had seat belts, now would be the time to put them on. You know, when you go to the amusement park, they have those things that you put over yourself. That's what we've got to do, because we have so much in these first 2 segments. Now the next segment we study, we'll take our time. We'll just breathe a little bit, but we got to get going. So here's first. 2022 data indicates that there are 18.3 million children who live without a father. That's 1 in 4. I want to tell you something that's first. You better protect your marriage. You better. Now, I'm not saying that mamas and daddies on their own can't raise their child. I'm not saying co-parenting can't work. I'm not saying that. But I'm telling you, God's design is for one man, one woman for life, and children are involved in that. And if we lose that, we've already lost a lot of the battle. So we cannot let our marriages fall apart. Whatever it takes, you get yourself right, you get yourself together. Because if we lose the marriage battle, we lose the child battle. When the home falls apart, by the way, the church falls apart. It's a big deal. 80% of single-parent homes are led by their mother. I can tell you about a young man right now. I can tell you there's some success stories in this. I can tell you about a young man who's at Harvard right now. He should be graduating any time now. And his father and mother, they did not remain married, but he turned out okay. Good Christian young man. Smart. I mean, one of those kids that's, you look at him and go, I guess I didn't pay attention in high school. I mean, that's what you realize. He's that smart. I mean, we're talking, I forgot what you make on an ACT to be a big number, but add 5 to it, and that's what he got. I mean, well up in the 30s, okay, big. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but 80% of single-parent homes are led by their mother, and what you find is many times in bigger cities, this is an issue, and we find destruction within the home, within the value, and then it repeats itself. Children from single-parent homes are twice as likely to suffer with mental health problems and behavioral problems than those living with married parents, with mamas and daddies, married together, living together, working together. One study found that 70% of youth that were in state-operated facilities were from single-parent homes. Do you see the battle I'm talking about? This is a battle for your house. This is a battle for your heart. This is a battle for your marriage because we can't get the rest of it right if I can't get that right. One study shows that children with an actively engaged father perform better in school. And some data is beginning to show that 33% are less likely to repeat a class and 43% more likely to get A's in school. What? If mamas and daddies have got their act together. Now I'm not telling you that just because you're married, everything's going to be fine. I want to tell you something that's true about marriage. Y'all know this. You know what marriage is? Y'all know what marriage is? Hard. That's not the word you probably thought I was going to use. It is wonderful, I know. It is great, I know. But it takes work, doesn't it? And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're describing. In a study of 56, now this is going to get to a real interesting area, 56 school shootings. Only 10 of the shooters, 18%, were raised in stable homes with both biological parents. 82% of those children grew up in unstable homes without both biological parents. Do you see how that tears it apart? Then you add all this on top of that. Our country, listen to me, is a ticking time bomb of mental health. We're in a problem, and pardon the way I'm going to say this, but you just need to hear this. There's going to come a time, and other countries in the world are starting to realize this, there's going to come a time that when we are old and need senior care, there's going to be nobody there to care. And I know I had the same thought about that. But that's the drive. It destroys societies when these things are together. There's some countries that I travel to that are realizing they're in a social collapse because they don't have enough young people to take care of the older people, because stability of the home, once again, was destroyed. Many of those occasions, there was one-child homes, government-run and government-led. If you have a non-religious mother and a normal father, now I know that word normal throws everybody off. Most fathers aren't normal. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the fact. But if you have a church-going or a non-church-going mother and a church-going father, 2/3 of children will go to church. In contrast, 2/3 of the children in non-practicing father homes with normal mothers, church-going mothers, they never attend church in their lives. So just with the statistics alone, you are 2/3 likely to keep your children in the church if you got your home right. That's just the numbers. If you don't, you're 2/3 more likely to lose them and for them to walk away from God and them to never attain any type of faith. Now, this is printed in your handout. Here's a large list of scriptures. You can go again. Now, these were not part of the scriptures in the other segment, just more scriptures to nail down biblical parenting, biblical marriage, biblical background. That's first. Get you home right. This one second. Consistency. Now, here's where I've got to say something. If we get on to our kids who are spending too much time on their phones, and we're sitting there, y'all are just on your phone too much, what does that do? Matter of fact, I just got a text message. I'll show y'all this. I'll show it to you. I don't mind sending my family. We're having our fair right now. And tonight is media night. And I love to go to media night because only so many people get to go. And my family's blessed to get to go. It's people who have dealings with the fair. My family's at the fair right now. I've got a picture of my family at the fair. And I love that they're there having a good time smiling. But if I tell them you can't be on your phone all the time and you can't play video games all the time, and if I'm playing video games, I'm on my phone all the time, what message am I showing? I don't believe what I say. I tell my kids, you got to go to church, and I never go. You got to be responsible, and I'm not responsible. You get the idea. Consistency is key. Now, let's get some groups where this has got to be. Parents, mamas and daddies, have got to be on the same page. Can I have a popsicle? No. Daddy, get me one too. Imagine what that would have with this. Imagine what that would do with this. Parents have to be on the same page. You know what that requires? At some point in time, we've got to sit down and have a conversation. about what we're going to do in our house regarding this. Grandparents, I love you. And I loved my grandmother. She passed on this year, about 7 months ago, 8 months ago. And I knew that when I went to my grandma's house, we called her Meemaw. And she, listen, if you ever saw a picture of a Meemaw, she was the picture of it, okay? She's in the dictionary beside Meemaw. That's what she looked like. I knew this when I went to her house. I could have as many Snicker bars as I wanted and as many Diet Mountain Dews as I could drink. Now, I didn't get that when I was at my house. Mom and Daddy didn't give me that. Now, I know we're talking about Snickers bars, okay? But just imagine how quick it could go awry. How quick it could go awry if we're not on the same page. I love grandparents, and my children love my parents. My father passed on the 10th of this month, and they loved him, but we were on the same page. My mother, we're on the same page. I'm not talking about Snicker bars. I don't care about Snicker bars. They get Hershey bars, and I just don't say anything about it. But I do about this. I do about this. Because we've got to be on the same page. It's just too dangerous not to. Fellow parents, this is where we're going to get into another little issue, just like grandparents. And I'm going to tell you something I do. You don't have to do this. You make up your mind. Y'all talk about it. My kids do not spend the night in anybody else's house. My rule. Not happening. You know why? It's so easy for it to lose control. When I grew up, man, we stayed with everybody. You know why? There wasn't nothing to do. There was nothing like this. You know what we did? I used to ride my bicycle. I don't know if my mama knows this or not. Y'all don't tell her. But we lived 1.1 mile from the fairgrounds. Matter of fact, they close Golden Mountain Road every year with 2 gates. You can still get around, but they close it because the Midway, right across the street. We'd ride our bicycles down there, spend all day. Where you been? Oh, just out. We had a 2.4 bike mile ride. My parents never knew where I was at. That's just when it was. I wouldn't let my kids ride a 1/10 of a mile without me knowing where they're at. You want to know why? This day and age is different. It's different. That's why I don't let people stay. I don't let my kids stay with anybody else. I trust my fellow parents. I do. I promise you. But I don't do that. And that's because it's really hard to get fellow parents on the same. So it's hard enough to get grandparents on the same page, much less fellow parents. But fellow parents need to be on the same page. Why? Because if my kid goes with you, he's still whose kid? I got to get that done. This is all about consistency. Number 2 is all about consistency. Now, let's get some rules. Then we're going to talk about conversations for families, and then I'm going to give you some things you can do, and we'll wrap this section up. We've got enough time to do all this. Is great. This is good. The meanest thing, y'all know what the meanest thing in the church building is? Don't be pointing fingers at each other yet. Hey, buddy. Come on in. Oh, no, am I too loud? I love that. I really do. A mama came up to me once and said, "What do I do with my kids at church?" I said, "Just hang on. Just hang on, okay? I got you. It's okay." Matter of fact, I'd rather children be noisy than it be silent. I'd much rather that. A silent church is a dead church, folks. Social media rules. Number 1, we don't use social media as our number 1 means of human contact. I went to the front desk of the hotel I'm staying at tonight and said, if y'all were going to go to dinner, you were by yourself and you needed to eat at 4 o'clock, because that's when I wanted to eat dinner. I skipped lunch. I said, where would you go? You know what they did? They gave me a recommendation. I did not get on Google Maps and type in food. Now I know we've all done that, but you know what I like? I like the human element. I like the human element. And social media cannot be our only means of communication, of contact. When I got to this place, what was it called? I'd have to look it up. Some burger joint, and it was amazing. I had a grilled jalapeno cheeseburger. Oh, buddy, I'm hoping I don't pay for that later. But it was wonderful at the time of which I had it, because guess what? I said, if y'all were going to eat here and you're probably never going to eat here again, what would you get? That's what they gave me two options, and I landed on that one with sweet potato fries. Now that'll make your day. Dip them in ranch. Ooh, hope you're not hungry. But I asked her, what would you get? And we had a conversation, and no one. Social media cannot be our only form of human contact. We need to learn to talk to each other. Rule number 2. This is for adults and kids. Know who you are, and don't focus on what gets the most likes. You know, I've learned, and you probably have too, that if you make a post on Facebook, if it's just text, people might not like it as much. But if you put a photo on there, people might like it. You put a video on there, people really going to like it. And sometimes we train ourselves to perform. You remember the circus that used to come around? They trained those animals to perform. Why? Because the people came to see the monkey perform. Sometimes we become the monkey. In the circus, it's not even ours. And we've got to know who we are. And we're going to see this in just a minute. We're going to talk about some things we need to talk about. Think before you speak. Think before you post. You remember what your mama used to say? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. We've got to get people off the keyboards. You remember when keyboards became prevalent typing? Carpal tunnel. I'm worried about carpal thumb. Okay. That's going to be the next big medical thing. And I can't wait for it. Are your thumbs bad? Call. You know that's coming. You know that's coming. That's where we're at. Think before you post. Keyboard warriors are the most brazen and brave people I've ever met. And sometimes I'm like you. I like to mess with them. That can be fun, I know. But we got to think before we speak, because, people read this stuff. Here's rule 4. Know your friends. Friends on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and X, you may not know who they are. You need to. You need to know who you like, you need to know who you follow, and you need to know the dangers of influence. Let me ask you this. Now, y'all just tell me if you know this or not. Did you know a couple just recently got engaged? Did y'all know who they are? Oh, good. This is great. Y'all are good. Y'all are ready. Do y'all not know who they are? Who is it? Oh, Taylor Swift. I cannot believe I just said her name. I've gone a long time without saying her name. And what's that other guy's name? No, it makes it sound like she is. She's not. What's his name? Travis Kelce. They might be really nice people, but I don't want my kids following them on social media. You know what Travis Kelce does? He pounds beers as fast as he can get them in his mouth. You know what Taylor Swift does? She tells you all the reasons you don't need to believe in God and why you need to be as provocative as you can. I don't want that for my kids. But it's popular. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows who they are. Influence. These are social media rules. Here's 5. And I tell kids this. Sometimes I get invited to speak to teens about this, and I'll spend a lot of time saying, talk to your parents, talk to your parents, talk to your parents. Well, what if it's embarrassing? Well, it's okay. Be embarrassed. I promise you, your parents are going to be more embarrassed than you are. My son, in the 2nd grade, my oldest son, came to me one night. He said, Daddy, I got a question. And he said it. You know how they come to you. You knew. Oh, boy. I said, is this a me and mama conversation? He said, I'm not saying this in front of her. I said, okay. So we kind of tucked off in the house a little bit, and I told Kelly, hey, Charlie wants to talk to me. He doesn't want you around, and I don't think Colson needs to be there, our youngest. And so they kind of went off, and he said, Daddy, is it okay for girls to kiss girls? I said, hang on a minute. Now, say that again. And he said it to me again. So I just said this. Why? On the playground, a 2nd grade girl kissed another 2nd grade girl, and everybody knew it. And they had a school meeting about it, and it was a big deal. And I'm so proud he came to ask me that. I hope that I've tried to tell him, listen, when you're in trouble, you come tell me. I said, and you won't be in trouble. We'll fix it. Whatever it is. I said, but you don't tell me. I said, and the hammer is coming. Now, I tell my boys all the time, I said, I'll bring out the 5 fingers of discipline. Do y'all know what the 5 fingers of discipline are? Well, you put them together and they make a really good message. My boys know that, okay? And I say that to them all the time just so they remember, okay, all right, oh, got it, okay. And sometimes I just look at them and I go 5. Now, I'm not counting down. I don't count down. But they know. They know. But I've tried to tell them, hey, you bring your problems to me and I'll help you fix them. I said, I might not be happy about it, but I promise you I won't be mad at you if you'll come tell me. And we've got to get to the point where we have opened communication to our children to where they are willing to say, Daddy, are girls allowed to kiss girls? Boy, I hope he never asks me that again or anything like it, but I hope he will if it's there. And that's one of these things, and it's social media rules, got to be communicated. Let's talk about 10 conversations. Now, we're not going to have these conversations. I'm going to give you 10 things that we need to be able to talk to our children about. Number 1, what is love? Now, the phrase, baby, don't hurt me, should not be in your mind. But it's in mine, and you can hear the beat, can't you now? We're all stuck there. But I want to tell you, I'm going to show you both of them, and I'm going to bring them back. Look at those topics. These are big topics. You know what is love is? Sex. Boy, Kelly has already, my wife's name's Kelly, and she looked at me, she said, that one's yours. I said, deal, fine, I'll explain it to the best I can, because I obviously have no filter. And I don't think that's going to be a hard conversation for me. But we need to have those conversations, because we need to know that marital intimacy belongs in marriage. That's how we've got to describe it. Where do babies come from? Well, that's that same conversation, but a little bit different, because you have all these aspects of mamas and mamas having kids and daddies having kids, and that doesn't make sense to our kids. How to be a friend. We need to know that. We need to know that. By the way, how to be a friend? The book of Proverbs says a friend loves at all times, by the way. If you want to know how to be a friend, be nice. You'll have all the friends you ever want. Be nice. Keep your mouth shut. You can have all the friends you want for the whole rest of your life. Life and death. On Sunday, August the 10th, my father passed away. It was during Sunday morning worship. I was there, my mother was there, my brother was there. I had a feeling it was going to happen that way Saturday night, and Kelly and I had a conversation. What's going to happen if we get that call? I said, well, y'all going to go on. And about 5 o'clock I got that call. And at 12:40 he passed. It was a Sunday afternoon. We had church eat church that day. We had a conference, and so after we got everything finished at the house, and the funeral home had come to collect the body, and we finally got everything settled to where I thought, okay, got to tell the kids. Some of our friends took them home with them. That way Kelly and I could be where we needed to be, and so Kelly, we everything was done. We all just kind of looking around, what do we do next? And I said, go get the boys. Take them home. I'll be sitting on the couch when you get there. The couch is where we have all our serious conversations. So I watched them bebop down the sidewalk, and I saw them get to the door and see me sitting on the couch. So they came in, and we had a conversation about death. My youngest looked at me and said, did Pa Bill die? I said, thanks for making me not have to say it. And then he said this, I think we need to have a prayer. I said, okay, what do you want to pray about? We had talked for a while. He said, we just need to pray that God will take care of Pa Bill. And he led his little prayer, and at the end of his prayer he said, and God, you just do the best you can. Finished his prayer, said amen. Pa Bill wouldn't want us to be sad. All right, okay. These are conversations we got to have. That was awful. I'm going to tell you, that was awful. But we've got to have these conversations. As much as we talk about death, we better talk about life even more. Family values. I don't know that families have values anymore, and I say that. Family values are kind of like common sense. We just have sense. It's common has left the room. Values seem to have left the room too. We need to talk about that. Puberty, boy, that's a fun one. Son, you need to wear deodorant. Why? Tell you later. That's how we treat it. But we've got to have those conversations. We've got to, because guess what? It's all new. It's all new. Remember, it's all new. Trust and honesty. I try to talk about trust a lot with my boys. They recently got in trouble because they broke my 9:30 p.m. rule. So I said, all right, the next 2 nights, you're in bed at 8:30, lights out. No going to 9, no going to 9:30. I said, and I'll guarantee you this, you won't forget it when I give it back to you. When are we going to get it? When I'm ready to give it back to you. Why? I said, because I need to trust you first. I give them some realistic expectations. How money works. When I was a child, my famous question was this: can't you just write a check? Now, Google Pay, boop. Can't you just tap your card? Well, we got to talk about how money works. And then there's this one. This is my favorite of all of them. Heaven. Heaven's a hard conversation to have with children, because eventually they're going to say this: is everybody going to heaven? How do you answer that? Carefully. Carefully, but you answer it. We've got to have these conversations. Now, we got all these problems, we got all these things. What do? I want to give you some things that are tools that are accessible to you. Some of them cost money, some of them are free. My favorite one, and I promise you, until my boys move out of my house, they will have this on their phones. No exceptions, these 2 things. Let's talk about parental control. Now, one of them may be phasing out. It kind of is phasing out. It seemed to be the biggest at the beginning. Originally, it was called Disney Circle. And Disney, oh, good old wholesome Disney. Okay. Disney decided we need something to help parents take care of these things, because they realized we can make money. And they sold these devices and sold this subscription, and it was a good service, okay? You could block certain shows, certain websites, certain things. You could time devices out. Hey, you don't want your kids playing gaming after 8 p.m.? Ooh, shut the console off at 8. They could do that. Bark is the same thing. Bark is the one I recommend you. There's several apps that you can get out there and put on all the devices that your kids have, as well as they have things that can go in your home network. So if you don't want that PlayStation having access to the internet after 8 p.m., it'll shut it off. These are things you need to know. Takes a little bit of time to set it up. Circle was the original kind of form of this. There were some others as well, but these were the popular ones. Bark is the one that I recommend. It is just the one that works. It is good. It filters. It gives you everything else you need to know. It really does a good job. They have this little video that they put up, and it talks about all the things that they can do. And basically, the parents have one app. On the child's device, you have another app, and you can tell that device, I only want them to use social media on so much time of the day. And then after 10 or 15 minutes, or whatever the time frame, I guess 10 or 15 minutes ain't a lot, but whatever time you choose, let's say you put an hour. If they've used Instagram more than an hour, it no longer works. It shuts them off. They can't go past these things. They have the Bark home devices that you can plug into your home network and do all sorts of things, block websites, block apps, all sorts of things as you go. Even limit what they can say and search as you go through these things. You can also think about personal routers and features. When I got here today, I told Steve, I said, hey, y'all use Unify Access. I guess I'm just nerdy enough to know that y'all have coded doors and what programs y'all use. I don't have my key fob with me. We use it too, and I've got the little key fob. Boop, I can get myself in the building. Really love that. But inside of Unify's network structure, and even in your home network, if it's advanced enough, you can go in and see what devices have been doing. This was at the church building, and I wanted to know, what have our kids been doing? And here was a Apple iPad. They'd been watching 2.4 gig of Netflix. Now, it takes quite a bit to get 2.4 gig of Netflix. They've been doing a lot of Netflixing on the church's internet. Now, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, as long as you're not doing it during services, I got it. Mamas and daddies talk a long time, and the kids might be, I got it. There's things kids shouldn't watch on Netflix, I know. But Netflix Kids, a real good thing. Another device, they had been on iTunes and iCloud and also. So there's certain features you can do, as well as you can restrict websites just in the router function. I don't suggest this one as much because you really need to know what you're doing and how to do it, and you really got to keep up with it, because if you're not keeping up with it, you're going to miss something. So I suggest other things like Bark. Let me tell you, Bark. I don't get paid a single Bark buck. That's my new phrase, a Bark buck. I don't get paid for them, but I'm an advocate of theirs. If your kid has a smartphone, you need Bark. It costs some per month. It's a monthly charge, but I think it's worth it. Verizon and AT&T, most cell providers have things. AT&T calls it cyber aware, and you can do all sorts of things, including content filtering and things. You don't want them to see it, you can have them block it out, but don't miss this. If you do it with AT&T, if that's what you have, when they get on Wi-Fi, that's not on AT&T. So it's not just per the device, it's only when they are on their cellular data that this works. So you need something more robust, Bark, something that is cross-platform. Verizon has it as well. It's called Smart Family. It also has a cost as well attached to it. I don't think AT&T's does, but it's not as advanced as you would like to have it. Listen, here's the key. Knowledge. Knowledge, 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 knowledge. That's never going to change. And if you let them outsmart you, they will. Did you know that high school students have figured out how to get around the blocks in high school? Doesn't take them long, okay? Doesn't take them long. If there's a website, most high schools block YouTube. They figured out how to get on YouTube with the school's Wi-Fi, okay? It doesn't take long. So some of these web filterings, that's why things like Bark, real hard. You'll get, with Bark, I should have told you this a minute ago, but if a threatening message comes to your kid, I'm going to beat you up. You know what you get? A screenshot of that message sent directly to your phone. Okay? If images come to that child's phone that they shouldn't be seeing, it automatically sees it, and it says, hey, you need to go check this out. Here's where it was. Here's what time they did it. Here's what you need to know. So I encourage you, do something to protect your kids. Because listen, just as when you and I were young, we weren't smart. They aren't either. Now let's take a break, I guess till 8, and then we're going to come back and we'll finish out. We'll talk about rules for all technology, and then I want to talk about Section 7 and Section 8. We'll do those rules pretty fast and have about 15 minutes on Section 7 and Section 8. I want to use a couple of words that are going to make us uncomfortable, not because they're bad words, but just I need you to know that they have this access, and I want to tell you how you can avoid that as well.